So yesterday I posted a video about how I really like the book Love is Letting Go of Fear. I like the philosophy that it's trying to put across. Simple stuff like you're either in love or you're in fear. And I think for a lot of us, we might be spending most of our time in that fear place, egoic mind, separation, worry, thoughts about the past and the future, guilt, blame, attack thoughts, um, and it's just not joyful. And it kind of takes over, and it's kind of tricks you out of knowing what's really going on. So, and feeling joy from your heart and love and peace and kind of trust, surrender, all those things. So, I think the piece that I forgot to add into that video yesterday was that not only do we get hung up in fear, we don't enjoy ourselves. We don't feel peace. We don't feel surrender. We don't feel connection with everyone and everything. But I think it renders us less and less capable of doing those things. What I've experienced with myself, and I've also received it from others, is this kind of inability to relate because we're so stinking worried about our lives, our fears, the big bad wolf that's going to come get us, be it financial or health or aging or legal or whatever you got, or maybe all of them. And as that happens, and as one becomes more and more preoccupied with self in those fearful ways, and probably the amygdala grows and all that stuff, the humans seem less and less human and less able to be human to each other. And I know I've seen it in myself when I was hung up and addictive behaviors and fears and worries and stress and not believing that I could overcome situations or whatever it was. But clearly the ego was so firmly in charge that I wasn't able to feel for and sit with the experiences of of others as they suffered, and maybe at my hand in some ways. Like, let's say I was neglecting someone and I couldn't sit there and say, gosh, that hurts, they're hurting. What is it that's got me so preoccupied that I can't even love this person, or I can't even give, or I can't turn my attention and my care and concern to them because I'm so utterly immersed in the worries that are dominating my mind. And recently I've noticed it with certain people in my life where maybe I got so busy trying to help them feel good that they got so used to it. And then when I just take it away for a minute where I'm not pouring all this kind of attention and love on them, they don't know what to do. And then when I say, I've got a problem or two over here, I sure wouldn't mind someone listening to me, and they don't have anything because they're so stuck in this I, me, mine kind of place that George Harrison was talking about, that they don't know what to do. And they don't have the capacity to feel empathy. And that is sad because the capacity to feel empathy is what makes us human. And what I'm also getting at here is that there's kind of a corollary to that. Not only can they no longer feel for others and offer the gift and the solace that is that empathy and that warmth and that connection, but that empathy and that warmth and that connection is also the balm for the worrier as well. When we can momentarily take our minds off our fear and worry and dissatisfaction and preoccupation with our past and our future, we can feel for someone else and say, oh, wow, I'm not the only one suffering. I do care about this person. My caring about this person is purposeful and helpful to them. I'm connected with this person. We're bonding. This is good. I'm not alone. They're not alone. See how good I'm being? And so you can kind of get all these different warm fuzzies that make you feel like, okay, I'm part of a community. It may be disjointed. It may be somewhat virtual. It may be worn, and I may be fighting with this person or distant from this person, and I don't even remember why, but here it is. Here's one of my connections. And so it's funny how not only screens and and those types of addictions that we all seem to be falling into are making us a little less human to each other. But so does that worry. And that worry and that fear and that constant self focus is what drives us to the technology and the screens and the scrolling and doom scrolling, because it gives us like a respite, a momentary break from our feelings of doom and looking at the void, or we're gonna die. I'm gonna get old. I'm gonna get sick. I'm gonna be alone. I already am alone. I'm gonna be poor. I already am poor. I'm not successful. I'm not feeling love. I'm not. All these things that lots of people feel all the time, or one or two pieces of all the time. The planet's dying and there's nothing I can do about it, or something like that. I lost my pet. I've got an aging parent. You know, and those are just, that's normal stuff. All of our parents are going to die. We're all going to die. So the suffering piece is so omnipresent that it's easy to want to just kind of go into the screens. But then when 3 hours later, you've scrolled, through Facebook and Instagram, you kind of feel worse because you're seeing all these people's lives and they're on boats and they have a suntan. And they're showing how they just got a degree, or just they're selling their ebook and making a living on some island. And so it just kind of compounds the problem in our minds and through our eyes. And so it was interesting to experience that the other day, where I definitely felt like it was karmic, and I said, oh, that's how it felt to be with me. I'm the most fucking empathetic person that could exist. I can't imagine someone being more sensitive than me. And yet I could be that shut down, that closed off, that preoccupied with self, that I couldn't feel for people that I cared about and that I continue to care about. So that was such an eye opener, so sad, so frustrating, so maddening to experience myself like that. How come I can't feel? And then to experience it with people that couldn't feel for me. When I was just saying, hey, I've got troubles too. This happened with me. Could you be there for me now? Like I've been there for you so much more. And the one particular friend could not do that for me. And, you could tell it felt bad that they couldn't do it, but also like in this kind of way that you could sense like, oh no, I can't do this for Jason. And now I'm going to lose Jason, who makes me feel okay. And I thought to myself, wow, this is really sad that, it ends up being a dependence instead of a relationship where we say, hey, now the floor is yours. What's going on with you? Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. How does that feel? What do you think caused that to happen? Is there a solution? Where you really stop everything and get immersed in what the other person's going through, and thinking about the permutations and what doesn't make sense about it. It doesn't seem like that person really. Is that really what's going on? Or, man, if I were in that, I would be feeling these 7 things. Are you feeling any of those? Does this scare you? Does this give you hope? Where you really just like look around the room that they're occupying and go there with them. To me, I find that to be such a respite from my problems. And it is a second nature kind of behavior for me. But I remember that even me, the guy who's kind of like that friend that friends call on their darkest hour, can be put in a place where I can't feel and can't empathize and can't help and can't stop my self-obsession. So to see other people experience that made me think, okay, I'm not the only schmuck that falls into that trap. This is a human failing, and our traumas and our addictions, like especially screens and tech and stuff like that, really can exacerbate. So we're either in some upward spiral of realization and opening and loving and surrendering, or we're clearly seemingly in a downward one. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of stasis or stagnation, or perhaps that what seems like stagnation is actually a slow spiraling down. So I wanted to remind people, I guess, via this post that, hey, it's not just that you're worrying and you're wasting time and you could feel better, but rust never sleeps. And so our capacity to do the very basic human stuff like empathize with each other is always at risk as well. And we don't think of it that way. Like, oh, of course I'm sensitive, or I love everybody. But watch out, because if you get hung up on yourself and then your self blame and guilt and worrying about the future and negative prognostications, and um, you can literally become less human, degenerate. And I hate to see people degenerate that I know are good people. And I know I'm a good person, and I was degenerating into someone who couldn't feel anymore. So I hope people are willing to take the steps that it takes to break free from that bondage, and that is either reaching out to people, apologizing, forgiving, not looking at people with judgmental eyes, and really being with them, being present enough to say, what is going on with you? I'm going to turn off my TV screen, all the tapes I'm playing about myself and what I see in the world, and anger and irritation, all my negativity, I'm going to put aside and share your burden for a while and help you with it if you want, if you're asking for it. And man, if that's not the most joyful, useful undertaking, because you get intimacy out of the deal, you get connection. And then you can feel good about yourself because you're helpful. And you get a break from your stuff. And you get to flex and use those muscles that that are needed. And you know how much you need it when somebody is there for you, and you can then do that for them. And then I think we feel like we're back in union and connection and community by that willingness to put ourselves aside. And it doesn't have to be for long. You don't have to be great at it. Let's say you're not even very good at it. You could just say, okay, you know I'm not good at this, right? But I'm going to try for you. I'm going to show you that I'm working about this, or I'm going to read this article about this and I'm going to come back to you in a week. Or can you coach me through what it takes to be present? And I think if everybody admitted it, they'd say, I really do know how to do this. It's just that I'm so anxious and preoccupied. I don't want to let go of my stuff. I'm refusing to kind of stop worrying long enough to help you and listen to you and be present with you, because I can't be present because it makes me too anxious to think of letting this down, because I'm under the mistaken notion that my worrying is productive, that I'm producing some net result from my worrying. Aha. Yeah, oh, there it is. I've been worrying about this all week and now I found a solution. You know, when usually I think that we find solutions when we put something down and let our brains rest. Maybe we pray or we meditate or do EFT or talk to somebody about it. But sitting there and worrying and letting some idea or thoughts or fear just bounce around our head, it's like sitting in a racquetball court and just hitting the ball, hitting 10 different balls as hard as you can in 10 different directions. They're all just going to come flying around. But for me, when I want to take my worry and make it productive, then I speak out loud. And when I speak out loud, even just by myself, I can say, now I hear it. I let some of the pressure off. Sometimes some inner voice kind of comes out and guides me through, or interesting answers come out, or I feel like I've deflated the angst, the ball of angst that's there. And then I can be more present. I feel like, I just talked to a therapist, but I didn't have any therapist to misunderstand or make it about them or what have you. And then it's also really nice to talk to a real human. And some friends of mine are so good at this, where I think, gosh, that's such great bonding. Or we really soared through the skies of philosophy and care, and they know me. Oh, I love how they know me. And, or gosh, I wouldn't have thought of that. So the doing it with a person piece is really good too. And so you can go back and forth between recording yourself talking as if dictating to a journal as well. And I think the more that people are willing to do these things, maybe the more they'll and meditate and get enough sleep and do all the stuff we do, then maybe they have a little bit more wherewithal to be present with you when you need it. But I think people get hyped up and over anxious about how they're going to screw it up. And that's why they sometimes can't just relate, because they think there's some magic trick to it. But it's really just being present with that person and saying, okay, this person's feeling a thing, they're worried about it. I'm going to make it about them. And if I bring it back to me and say, oh, wow, I lost a this or that, or I lost my job before, or I had a breakup, or what have you. I felt like this. And then you bring it back to them again. But what was it like for you? Was it like my experience? Oh, no. Tell me how it was different. And then, so you just kind of go back and forth between saying, hey, I relate, I feel, and I can imagine feeling what you felt. And here's the thing that I have that's similar. See, we're similar. Now tell me more about you. And then but tell me more. Let me into this building that you're describing to me. Let me look around more and more. And so the more you show them that you're on the case, I think the more the pressure kind of gets alleviated. And it's just about being with someone. It's holding their hand emotionally or psychologically. So it doesn't have to be such a task. And for me, it's totally natural. I could do it, but I still screw up, And then if people are doing it poorly for me, I'll say, hey, you're making it about you, or you're not taking me seriously, or you sound checked out, or you're just giving me pat answers. And I'll just tell them what I actually need. And then that helps. So that's real intimacy, I think. And I think one more thing before I go, I think that sometimes people don't want real intimacy. A lot of us can have traumas in life and things that we're afraid of. And intimacy, even in just the form of talking, can be too much, because then we have to feel our feelings. And so when people are unwilling to feel your feelings, maybe they're not willing to feel their own to begin with. So wherever you are, that wherever you go, that's where you are. And hopefully these little insights I'm sharing are useful in some way for people trying to have a more peaceful life and have intimacy and connection with people they care about.